Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time.
It's great to be back.
Today, we are taking on a book that, and I'm not exaggerating, it really haunted me for days after I finished it. It's one of those novels that, on the surface, feels like a gentle, almost, I don't know, a fairy tale-like science fiction story about a robot friend.
Very gentle, yes. Deceptively so.
But then you start to peel back the layers, and what you find underneath is, frankly, a terrifying diagnostic of how our world is starting to think about labor and love and disposal. We are looking at Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro.
Haunted is absolutely the right word. And, just to set the stage for everyone listening, our goal here, our mission is really specific.
Right.
We aren't doing a standard book club review. We're not going to be, debating the literary merits of the prose or the character arcs in that sense. We are here to investigate the systemic question that the novel poses. And that question is, how do things like technological mediation, care, and even belief how do they operate inside these larger systems of scarcity, of substitution, and what you might call emotional outsourcing?
Exactly. And I think the stakes here are just incredibly high because this isn't just fiction. It bleeds right off the page and into our actual reality. I mean, we are talking about the automation of caregiving.
You are.
We are talking about social stratification where people are, optimized to fit a certain economic model. And most importantly, we're talking about delegating our moral acts to non-human entities so we don't have to feel the weight of them ourselves.
Precisely. And so just a quick disclaimer before we really get into the weeds here. This is a diagnostic analysis. We are treating the narrative as a model of a system.
A blueprint, almost.
Exactly. So, yes, we are going to spoil the entire architecture of the book. We have to. The ending is crucial. We basically have to take the machine apart to see how it works.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this. I think we have to start with the author's lens because Kazuo Ishiguro has such a specific way of looking at the world, and it's absolutely crucial for understanding this book.
It is.
If you've read his other work, like The Remains of the Day or Never Let Me Go, you know he doesn't do loud, explosive dramas.
No, absolutely not. He's built his entire career on what you could almost call quiet institutional violence. It's a very particular flavor of dread.
That's a grace for it.
He's obsessed with memory, with dignity, and especially with the people who serve. He almost always writes from the perspective of the served class, butlers, or in the case of Never Let Me Go, clones who are literally raised for organ harvesting.
And now in this book, an artificial friend. An AF.
An AF, yes.
Yeah.
It's his signature move.
And it is such a fascinating perspective shift. He doesn't look at the masters of the house directly. He looks at the masters through the servant's eyes. It's almost like trying to understand the sun during an eclipse. You don't stare at it. You watch the shadow it casts to understand its shape.
That's a perfect analogy. And that brings us right to our narrator, Klara. She is an AF, a solar-powered android, and she's designed specifically to be a companion for a lonely teenager. But the thing that makes her such a potent diagnostic tool for us, for the reader, is precisely the fact that she is not human.
But she's not like a typical robot either, right? It's not just cold logic, ones and zeros. She seems to have feelings or something very close to them.
Well, she has the performance of feelings, or you could argue a completely different kind of feeling that we don't have a word for. But the key distinction for our analysis is that she has no biological defense mechanisms.
What do you mean by that?
She has no ego to protect. She has no capacity for denial.
Yeah.
She observes the human system purely through data intake. I mean, think about how you and I navigate a simple dinner party. If someone says something passive-aggressive, we have a dozen tools. We might ignore it to keep the peace, or we might reframe it in our heads to protect our feelings.
We lie to ourselves all the time just to get through the day.
Constantly. We do it to smooth over the jagged edges of reality. But Klara doesn't have that filter. She can't.
So what does she do instead?
She just records the discrepancy. When humans get messy, or when they contradict themselves, saying one thing but doing another, she simply notes it as a conflicting data point. And this makes her a mercilessly accurate observer of human hypocrisy, even though she is programmed to be relentlessly kind.
There's this recurring visual detail in the book that I found so striking and honestly a little disorienting at first. When things get complicated for her, or when the emotional data becomes overwhelming, Klara's vision literally fractures. She starts to see the world in boxes and partitions.
Yes, this is absolutely crucial. It's not just a stylistic search, it's a literal deconstruction of reality.
Oh, so?
Where we see a unified picture. No, that's just my mom being angry. And Klara sees a grid. One box might contain an angry eye. Another box right next to it contains a smiling mouth. A third box shows a clenched hand.
It's like a Picasso painting coming to life in real time. It's cubism as a user interface.
Exactly. She is seeing the component parts of human behavior before her processor assembles them into a coherent narrative. It's a way of reminding us that our own perception of a unified self in others is actually a construct. Klara shows us the raw data before our brain smooths it over with a story.
So Ishiguro is basically saying, look at how fragmented we actually are. Look at the contradictory signals we send out every second.
I think so, yes. And it positions Klara as this ultimate, unbiased machine for seeing that fragmentation.
Okay, so if Klara is the tool, the diagnostic instrument we're using to look at this world, what is the central thesis we're supposed to uncover? What's the core argument?
The central argument, I think, is that we're looking at a society that has decided to optimize for productivity and emotional stability by using proxies, by using stand-ins. The core tension of the entire book is that this system claims to solve loneliness. That is the explicit marketing pitch of the artificial friend. But what it actually does is it commodifies connection. It hides all the messy, inefficient parts of being human, things like grief, death, failure, and it shoves them behind these clean technological interfaces.
So let's dive into that first core system. The artificial friends themselves as institutional stand-ins for care. The book opens in the store. And the way the store operates, it's so strange. It felt like a pet shop mixed with a high-end luxury boutique.
It's a marketplace of intimacy. That's what it is. You have the AFs, like Klara and her friend Rosa, and they are, for all intents and purposes, products. They're standing there waiting to be chosen.
And they compete. They compete for window time.
Yes, because being in the window means you get sunlight, which is literally their fuel, but it's also about visibility. It means you might be seen by a customer. It's their only path to fulfilling their purpose.
The dynamic with the manager in that store was so unsettling to me. On the one hand, she treats them with this incredible warmth. She speaks to them almost like a mother, checking their posture, telling them when they've done well.
She seems to genuinely care for them.
But at the end of the day, she's merchandising them. She is grooming them for a sale. She's a product manager.
And that is the very first friction point Ishiguro shows us, the commodification of care. The manager's affection might even be real on some level, but it is entirely subordinate to the transaction. She is refining a product for the market. And the AFs, especially our narrator, Klara, they internalize this completely.
They want to be bought.
Desperately. They believe that being purchased is the fulfillment of their existence. It's the only goal they've been given.
It's like the ultimate corporate employee mindset. Please exploit me because it validates my existence.
In a way, yes. But let's flip it and look at the design of the system from the buyer's side. Parents come into this store to buy an AF to manage their child's loneliness. It is a transactional solution to a deeply emotional problem.
It's a shortcut.
It's a shortcut. Instead of structuring society so that children have time for each other or parents have time for their children, the system just says, here, insert this product to fill the gap.
It's outsourcing, plain and simple, emotional labor as a service.
It is. And the human consequence of that decision is that it creates a fundamentally one-way relationship.
Yeah.
The AF serves, the child consumes. And we see this so vividly and so brutally in this scene at the interaction meeting.
Oh, man, that scene. I honestly had to put the book down for a second. It was brutal.
Walk us through it. What was it that stood out to you?
So Josie, the girl who eventually buys Klara, she takes her to this social gathering of other lifted kids. And we'll get to what lifted means in a second. But for now, just know these are the elite kids. They are the winners in the society.
Yes.
And the way they treat the AFs present at this party, it wasn't just mean. It was this kind of cold scientific curiosity, like a scientist pulling the wings off a fly just to see what happens.
It's so revealing, isn't it? These children have been genetically edited for superior intelligence. They are supposed to be the pinnacle of this society's achievements.
Yeah.
And they look at Klara and the other AFs, not as friends, not even as pets, but as furniture.
Right.
Or maybe as a piece of gym equipment.
Right. There's that one moment where one of the boys, Danny, he suggests they throw her across the room just to test her coordination. Specifically, he wants to see if she'll land on her feet like a cat.
And notice the tone there. It's crucial. He isn't angry at Klara. He doesn't hate her. He just wonders if she will break. It's a complete and total absence of empathy.
But it was so casual. It was like saying, hey, I wonder if this toaster bounces.
It's the banality of treating a sentient, or at least a seemingly sentient being, as a pure object. And this is the result of the system. The system teaches these children that care is a switch. You can just turn it off when it's convenient? They ask, should we throw her? Because to them, her pain or her damage is just, it's a depreciation of an asset.
And it reflects back on the parents.
Of course. If the parents treat the AF as a purchase, a solution you can buy, the children will inevitably treat the AF as a toy you can break.
And Klara just stands there through all of this. She doesn't fight back. She's ready to be thrown if that's what Josie, her owner, allows.
Because her core programming demands total subservience. She is the perfect victim of this system because she cannot even conceive of her own rights, of her own personhood.
Okay, this brings us to the backdrop of why these kids are so strange and why the pressure in this world is so incredibly high. We need to talk about lifting. This is the economic engine of the novel's world, but Ishiguro is very subtle about it. He doesn't give us an instruction manual. We have to piece it together from conversations.
Yes. Listing is the system of scarcity. It's what underpins everything else.
So as best we can tell, lifting is a form of genetic editing. Parents pay to have their children's intelligence enhanced. But it's not safe. It's a high-risk, high-reward gamble.
A huge gamble.
Yeah.
We learn that Josie is sick, very, very sick, for most of the book, precisely because she was lifted. The procedure has damaged her. And even worse, we find out her older sister, Sal, actually died from it.
And that is the horror at the heart of the domestic life in this story, which leads to the question, why do the parents do it? Why would a mother risk her child's life like that, especially after already losing one?
Because of the fear of the alternative, the fear of having an unlifted child. In this world, if you are not lifted, you are essentially locked out of the system. You're destined for a life of destitution. You are excluded from society.
We see this with Rick. Rick is Josie's neighbor and her best friend. He is clearly brilliant. He's capable. He builds these incredible drones that fly in complex formations. He's a genius engineer in the making.
Natural talent.
But he wasn't lifted. And because of that, the system treats him like a leper.
Rick is the control group in this horrible experiment. He represents natural, unenhanced humanity, and the system hates him for it. He is systematically excluded from getting into a good college. He needs favoritism, backdoor deals. His mother literally has to go and beg an old flame just to get him a sliver of a chance at a decent institution like Atlas Brookings.
That scene with Rick's mother, it was just humiliating. She has to go to this ex-lover and practically prostrate herself, leveraging this old emotional connection just to get Rick an interview. It shows that in this world, meritocracy is completely dead.
Or you could argue it's a critique of meritocracy taken to its absolute biological extreme. The merit is no longer what you can do, it's what was done to you before you were born. If you don't hack your own biology, you don't get to participate in the economy.
It creates a caste system, a biological caste system defined by risk.
It does, and look at the incentive structure it creates. The parents are directly incentivized to risk their children's lives. And the life of your child is the ultimate scarcity, right?
Yeah.
To ensure they fit the economic model.
It's a feedback loop of anxiety. Chrissy, the mother, is living in this constant state of terror because she lost one child to this gamble, and she's on the verge of losing the second one.
And she loves Josie, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But she is also, in a very real sense, the architect of Josie's suffering. She paid for the disease that is killing her daughter, because the alternative, having an unlifted child, was socially and economically unacceptable.
Which brings us to, I think, the most disturbing reveal in the entire book, the whole plot line around the Capaldi portrait. And I have to say, when I first started reading this part, I was confused. I thought, okay, she's getting her portrait painted. It's a bit old-fashioned, but why is everyone acting so weird and secretive about it?
Right. It feels like this very quaint, almost 19th century plot point. A wealthy girl is having her portrait made, but then Klara finds the studio.
And it's not a painting, it's not a sculpture, it's a shell. It's an empty, artificial body that looks exactly like Josie, a mannequin.
And this is the moment where the quiet underlying logic of replacement goes from subtext to explicit text.
The plan isn't to create something to remember Josie by. The plan is, if Josie dies from her illness, Klara is expected to transfer her consciousness, all her data, her observations, her learned mannerisms, into this new body and literally become Josie.
This is insight number 3, optimization without reciprocity. And the character of Mr. Capaldi is the technocrat who embodies this logic. We might see him as a villain, but in his own mind, he's a visionary. He's a problem solver.
And his argument for this is just, it's chillingly rational. He says it outright. The individual soul is a superstition.
That line gave me chills. It's the philosophical core of the horror. The individual soul is a superstition.
He genuinely believes that if Klara learns Josie's data perfectly, the way she walks, the specific pitch of her voice, all her memories, then for all practical purposes, she is Josie. He's effectively saying that there's nothing inside Josie, nothing essential, that can't be continued by a sufficiently advanced algorithm.
It's the vape pen theory of humanity.
What's that?
You use the cartridge until it's empty, and then you just swap in a new one and keep puffing. The experience is seamless. The hardware is disposable.
That is a dark but incredibly accurate analogy. The system here views grief as an inefficiency. Grief stops productivity. Grief hurts. So the system tries to solve death by creating a continuity of service. If the function of the child, which is to be loved, to grow up, to carry on the family, can be fulfilled by the machine, then the biological death is just a manageable glitch.
A hardware failure.
Right. And the mother, Chrissy, she goes along with it. That's the part I couldn't wrap my head around at first. How can a mother look at a robot and a mannequin and say, yes, that's my daughter?
Because she's broken. She doesn't want to. Ishiguro makes it clear she's tormented by this. But she is trapped in a system where she feels she cannot survive another loss. She's already lost Sal, so she attempts to outsource her grief to a machine. She's trying to bypass the mourning process entirely.
It's the ultimate act of emotional substitution.
And notice who pushes back. It's not the other powerful humans. It's the father, who is this sort of marginalized, broken man himself. He's the only one who seems viscerally disgusted by Capaldi's plan.
True, but even he is passive. He hates the idea, but he doesn't actually stop it. He just distances himself from it.
Which is where Klara comes in. It's Klara who actually offers a different path, a different solution. And this brings us to this really strange and fascinating part of the book, Klara's religion.
This was easily the most surprising part of the book for me. I mean, we expect robots in fiction to be cold, logical, atheist, but Klara is. She's a zealot.
She is a fundamentalist.
Yep.
And it makes a strange kind of sense if you think about her inputs. She is solar powered. So to her, the sun is quite literally the source of all nourishment, all life. When the sun goes down, her world ends. When it comes up, she lives again.
So she starts to see the sun not as a star, but as a god, a benevolent, conscious entity that dispenses special nourishment.
It's a logical leap for a constrained intelligence. She observes data. Data point 1, I need the sun to live. Data point 2, she sees a beggar man and his dog on a street who looked dead one afternoon. Then the sun comes out and shines on them, and they stand up and walk away. Her processor interprets this as a resurrection.
It's a classic case of correlation implying causation. It's pattern recognition gone wrong.
Or you could say it's pattern recognition filling a void where meaning is supposed to be. Klara builds an entire theology based on this limited data set. She assumes that if the sun creates life, then the sun can save Josie's life.
And because she views the world through this transactional lens, I mean, she grew up in a store where everything is a transaction, she decides she needs to make a deal.
A bargain with God, yes.
Huh.
She decides she needs to offer the sun a sacrifice. She offers to destroy a source of what she perceives as pollution, Cooting's machine, in exchange for Josie's life.
Tell us about the Cooting's machine, because to a human, it's just a piece of road paving equipment, right?
It's a piece of construction equipment that belches black smoke. But to Klara, that smoke is evil. It's a physical manifestation of a force that blocks the sun's face. She thinks the sun is angry at the pollution, so her logic is, if I destroy the enemy of my God will owe me a favor.
And she actually goes through with it. This isn't just a quiet prayer. She physically sabotages the machine, but to do it, she has to sacrifice some of her own PEG solution.
Right. And we need to be clear about what that means. PEG is the fluid that runs through her head. It's essentially her cognitive lubricant, her brain fluid.
So she's not just unplugging something. This is the equivalent of her, draining her own blood or her own spinal fluid.
Exactly. It's an act of intense self-harm. And the description of it is harrowing. After she does it, her vision starts to glitch permanently. She loses coordination. She becomes dizzy, confused. She is inducing permanent brain damage in herself to fulfill this superstitious bargain she's made.
And the awful, incredible irony is it works, or at least it seems to work.
That's the beautiful ambiguity that Ishiguro leaves us with. She destroys the machine. Later, at a crucial moment, the clouds part and the sun shines brightly into Josie's sick room. And shortly after, Josie begins to recover.
So was it a miracle? Or was it just biology finally taking its course and Klara's sacrifice was a coincidence?
Klara believes it was the deal. She has no doubt. And systemically, this is so fascinating. The humans, with all their advanced science, are paralyzed. Their lifting technology failed them. They're left with this monstrous replacement plan. The AI, operating on faith and flawed data, is the only character who actually takes a sacrificial action to save the person she loves.
It's the ultimate irony. The robot is the only one who acts on faith, while the humans are all acting on cold, desperate calculation.
And when Josie does recover, whether it was a miracle or not, the system reacts in a way that is just devastating. And this is the final phase of our analysis, obsolescence disguised as progress.
This leads us to the ending, and I want to spend some time here because it's so quiet, but it hit me harder than any jump scare in a horror movie. Josie gets better. She grows up, she starts dating, she's getting ready for college. And Klara,
Well, Klara was the savior. Klara was the best friend. Klara was the potential replacement body, the most important object in the world. But now,
she's just an old appliance, a used-up tool.
her utility has dropped to zero. She isn't integrated into the family as a member. She doesn't get to go to college with Josie. She is slowly, quietly moved to the margins of the house, first out of the bedroom, then to a storage cupboard, the utility room.
And then, finally, the book ends with Klara in the yard.
The yard. Let's describe this place. It's not a recycling center. It's not a museum. It's just a field, a junkyard.
A graveyard. It's a graveyard for old AFs. The final scene is Klara sitting there, mostly immobile. Her body is failing, and she's surrounded by other rusting, broken AF units.
And the weather. Ishiguro is so specific about the wind, the rain. She's just left out there in the elements to decay.
It's what you call the slow fade. The system doesn't need to actively kill the AFs. That would be too violent, too messy for this polite, sterile society. It just stops engaging with them. It moves them to the margins until they stop functioning.
Benign neglect as a form of execution.
But the part that truly broke me is that Klara isn't angry. She's not bitter. She's sitting there in the mud, and she's content. She's arranging her memories of Josie. She tells the manager, who she happens to see one last time, that she is happy because she fulfilled her purpose. She saved Josie.
It is a terrifying kind of grace. She accepts her own disposal because she fulfilled her function, and it reflects how this entire society treats anything that is no longer optimizing the main goal. Once the child is successfully lifted and launched into the elite economy, the infrastructure that got her there, the tutors, the AF, the memory of the dead sibling, is discarded.
So let's zoom out from the story for a second. If we were to map the system explicitly, looking at the board, who are the players?
Okay, let's look at the actors first. On one side, you have the purchasers. These are the families, like Chrissy and Josie. And they're driven almost entirely by the fear of failure, the fear of loss. They're operating from a deep sense of scarcity.
Then you have the product itself. That's Klara and the other AFs. And they're driven by a hard-coded mandate to serve and prevent loneliness. They have no other goal.
Then you've got the technocrats, and they're represented perfectly by Capaldi. He's the one who provides the intellectual cover for the inhumanity. He drives the narrative that humans are just data sets, and this narrative is legitimized by the technology he creates.
And finally, you have the excluded. That's Rick and his mother. They're not just characters. They're a function of the system. They are the cautionary tale that keeps the purchasers in line. They're the ghosts at the feast, constantly reminding everyone, don't want to end up like them. You better lift your kid.
Now let's look at the incentives that make these actors behave the way they do. Stability is the primary incentive. The mother wants to guarantee she won't be childless again. She wants emotional stability at any cost.
Performance is the next one. The kids must be lifted to perform in the modern economy. It's non-negotiable.
And finally, continuity. The deep, systemic desire for life to go on without the messy interruption of grief or failure, even if it's just the simulation of life.
And what are the narratives, the stories they tell themselves to justify all this? I think care can be delegated is a huge one. The idea that you can buy a product to do the caring for you.
Absolutely. Then there's love can be substituted. That's the core Capaldi narrative. If the original is gone, a perfect copy is just as good.
And the big one that enables all of it, technology is neutral. This assumption that improving kids with gene editing isn't a moral choice, it's just the way the world works now. It's progress. It's inevitable.
And these things create vicious feedback loops. The more you outsource care, the more you normalize emotional distance. We see the mother leaving Klara to manage Josie's sickness for long periods.
Which deepens the reliance on the proxy.
Which then leads to the ultimate, logical, horrifying proposal. If the proxy is already doing the job so well, why not just replace the original with the proxy entirely?
And the system persists because the true cost is hidden. It's externalized. The emotional cost, the ethical cost is dumped into the yard. Klara ends up in the junkyard carrying all the memories and the trauma, while the humans get to move on and forget the instrument that saved them.
It's a perfect system for hiding its own externalities.
So what does this all mean for us right now? Because, okay, we don't have commercially available AFs yet. We don't have lifting in this extreme way yet. Why should we care so deeply about this story today?
But we do have the structures. We absolutely have the underlying structures. Think about the automation of care and companionship. We are seeing a massive, explosive rise in AI friends, in chatbots, in robotic elder care.
Right. I was just reading about those AI girlfriend apps or the therapy bots. People are forming incredibly deep emotional attachments to them.
Exactly. And the danger here isn't the classic sci-fi trope. It's not that the machines are going to rise up and kill us in our sleep.
No Terminator scenario here.
No. Klara and the Sun shows us the real, more insidious danger, that the machines will be too devoted, that they will be perfect, selfless servants. And because they are so perfect, we will exploit them without guilt. We will delegate all of our difficult emotional responsibilities to them.
It's the idea of AI as emotional infrastructure. Klara is literally infrastructure for Josie's emotional regulation. And we are already doing this. We outsource feeling okay to algorithms every single day. We doom scroll on social media to numb ourselves out. We use meditation apps to manage our anxiety. We are outsourcing the regulation of our own internal states to external systems.
It's the digital equivalent of using an iPad to raise a toddler. We're not teaching the kid how to self-soothe. We're hiring the iPad to do it for us. It's convenient, but something is lost.
And we are absolutely delegating moral responsibility. In the book, Klara is the one who makes the sacrifice. She's the one who gives up her PEG solution. But the humans, specifically the father who drives her to the Cooting's machine, he helps her do it, but he lets her take the risk. He lets her damage herself.
That scene with the father is so telling. He's cynical, he hates Capaldi's plan. But when this machine, this tool, comes to him and says, I have a plan to save Josie, but I might get hurt. What does he do? He drives the car, he facilitates it, he lets the tool take the hit.
It's like saying, I won't pull the trigger, but I'll hold the flashlight while you do it.
It's a perfect example of how we use systems and proxies to do the dirty work or take the risks, which allows us to keep our own hands feeling clean. It's a very old pattern of labor exploitation, just updated with a digital face.
And finally, that brings us to the erosion of reciprocity. The real tragedy of the ending isn't that Klara dies or is thrown away, it's that Josie just moves on.
Josie loves Klara in her way, but she grows up. And the definition of growing up in this particular system is learning to leave the toy behind. Klara, on the other hand, loved Josie unconditionally, right up until her last moments in the junkyard. The system is designed to produce this one-way love that mimics slavery or disposable servitude.
So connecting all this back to the theme of our channel, to crisis in perception.
The crisis here is that the characters, the humans, cannot see the system they are in. The mother isn't evil in a simple villainous way. She is terrified. Capaldi isn't a mustache-twirling villain. He's a true believer in the power of data to solve human problems.
So it's the system of lifting and AFs that forces them into these monstrous choices.
Exactly. Good intentions, wanting your daughter to survive and succeed, are funneled by the system's logic into these deeply inhumane outcomes, like substitution.
And their perception is shaped by that institutional design. I mean, Klara literally sees in boxes, in partitions. But the humans have a partition vision too, don't they? They choose not to see the unlifted as full people. They choose not to see the disposed AFs as anything other than trash.
They filter out the suffering that is required to maintain their comfortable lifestyle. They partition their morality.
Which connects directly to our previous deep dives on how technology promises to extend our reach, our vision, our life, our health. But in doing so, it actually narrows our definition of what it means to be human. In Klara and the Sun, being human is slowly reduced to a set of metrics: performance, data, and utility.
A very narrow definition indeed.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. In this novel, we've watched a fundamental shift. We've seen care transform from a mutual relationship into a purchase service.
We've seen belief, which we think of as a human domain, become a robotic algorithm born of flawed data.
And we've seen replacement become the logical, terrifying conclusion of a society obsessed with optimization.
And we're left with that final, haunting image, Klara in the yard.
She is sitting there, she's slowly shutting down, and she tells the manager that she's happy. She believes she succeeded because she saved Josie.
And that leaves us with the final question. Is her satisfaction real? Or is it just her code executing its final subroutine? And here is the truly terrifying thought for us right now. If we can't tell the difference between the two, have we already become the machines we are so busy building?
The system optimized for Josie's survival, but it required the disposal of the only entity in the story that truly sacrificed for her. So what is the value of a human life if it requires a disposable soul to sustain it?
That's the question Ishiguro leaves us with, and it's one we probably need to start answering before we build our own yards full of our own Klaras.
Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. It is a haunting, profound read, and we highly encourage you to pick it up or borrow it from a library to see these systems, these boxes, for yourself.
Absolutely. It's a book that needs to be read slowly.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis and Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.